Hosted by Mike, the Big Cheese.
Welcome back to the Heavy Metal Mayhem Radio Show. It is April 7th, 2024. We got a great show for everybody tonight. Call Canedy of the Rogers, our first guest. Mike Sabatini of Attack calling in a second. It doesn't get any better than that in the world of heavy metal, does it? And a lot going on with both of those bands these days. We'll be talking to them all about it in a little bit. I hope everybody had a great Easter out there. We were off last week for the holiday, but we're back now. Unfortunately, some sad news today. I just saw it about an hour or so ago. CJ Snare from Firehouse and Max Warrior has passed away. 64 years old. Sweetheart of a man. Who knows what happened? I mean, it's personal. It's his family's business. But I guess as we get closer and closer to that age, I mean, some of us, like myself, are almost there. 64 does not seem that old anymore, It's a shame, but it is what it is. So let's do a little tribute to him. How about we do some Max Warrior for CJ Snare? Let me see what I can dig up over here. We just had them on the show not long ago, so I don't want to play something I played back then. So we'll do Burning Down the Gates of Hell. What a great song to play.
fight the devil blade. Falling sail like the angel of hell as we gather in all the kind. And as we're headed towards earth, devilish has sent itself through time, but we can't let go.
Alright, a little tribute there to CJ Snare with Max Warrior and Burning Down the Gates of Hell. Gone Too Young. I know Firehouse was supposed to be out on tour this summer. Obviously, it's not going to happen now. The band probably will end as it should without CJ singing with them. But it's a shame. It really is. I jumped into that song really quick because what I wanted to do is I wanted to do a little mini set of music that was produced by Canedy before he called in. And we started things off with Anthrax, Death Rider. The only Anthrax record you ever really hear me playing the show because that was the Anthrax I fell in love with. Not taking anything away from Joey Belladonna. The guy's a great singer. I just never got into that era of Anthrax. That's more so to blame the band than Joey Belladonna. And we're going to talk to Carl all about that if we can. I spread the guests out nice and far apart tonight, at least an hour apart, because we have two very talkative guests and a lot to go over. And since we weren't on the air last week, we'll probably run a little late tonight. Maybe do the whole 3-hour show like we do sometimes. So let's get into the music right now. I want to talk about Skid Row, but we'll save that for in between the two guests if we have time. So let's do a little set of Carl's music. These were bands that he produced back in the 80s. Carl was producer extraordinaire to Megaforce. Let's get on some TT quick. Metal Man.
Warriors of hell, fight to fight. Coming after you and for your lives. Statins on the fire right tonight. Run across the flames of fire, stars blazing steel. As it falls on another nail, screaming through the fields. The mighty sword sinking man and slicing to the bone. You never can sustain a force that drives that to sound. Coming after you and for your lives. Warriors of hell, fight the fight. Coming after you and for your lives. Assassins on the fire right now. Tonight. Coming out of the sunset, ready to hold back. Dress on to try to fool you under our attack. Hidden in the distant wheels of force under command. Where's what's fought to what the Sanctions make us stand. Many men took many slaves on this bloody day. Warriors and savages seeking out their prey. As the team men to live the swamp on no man's land. Let's fight on to what the Sanctions make us stand.
All right, a little triple shot of call for everybody right there. The first TT Quick record he produced with Metal Man, Exciter off their second record, Violence and Force with Shell Shock, and I'm sorry, with Saxons of Fire, and that was Manowar from the first demo tape in 1981 when Carl was the drummer of Manowar in the very beginning. You know, it's funny, I was a big tape trader back in the day, and I remember trading for this demo, not knowing who Manowar were at the time. It had to be the end of 81, maybe the beginning of 82. And when you tape traded with people, sometimes if you were pen pals with them, they would give you some information on the band that they knew. You got to remember, Circus and Hit Parade weren't writing about these bands. Metal Force was about a year or so away from coming out. There was Kerrang! Very hard to find here in the U.S. Some record stores had it, but it was probably as much, if not more, than buying a record. So you kind of had to make that choice. So I didn't know who was in the band at the time when the first album came out, and I heard it. I compared it to the demo tape, and I was like, oh, this is so great. I was a big Manowar fan for those first 3 or 4 records, and not knowing that when on that demo tape, it was Shell Shock and Battle Hymns were the 2 songs in that demo tape. And Carl, laid down those drums, which were amazing drums at that time. I remember hearing it with Donnie Hamzik playing it, but he was just playing what Carl had come up with. So when you hear it on the demo tape, you can really appreciate what Carl did for those 2 songs, and who knows what else would have came out of him drum-wise if he stood with Manowar. You never know, right? All right, Carl's going to be calling in a couple of minutes. Hopefully, he'll be calling in for a couple of minutes. We'll have the interview go off on time. So how about we do a Rod song between now and then? Let's do some classic Rods before we jump into the new stuff after the interview. Here's Too Hot to Stop.
Well, I'm low down dirty.
Mighty Rods. I'm so happy that after like 45 years, I mean, can you believe it? It's been 45 years since the Rods formed, that they're still together, still playing. There's been a lot of ups and downs in that band's history, and Carl wrote all about it in this amazing book called Tales of a Wild Dog. I want to talk about the whole book, because I just read it this week. I got through it, in a couple of days. It's such a great read. But I also don't want to give away a lot of details about what was talked in the book, because people have to buy it and read it. That's the way things go around here. We don't get nothing for free. You have to buy it. And I picked up a copy this week, and an absolutely phenomenal book. And we'll talk to Carl all about that when he calls in. He should be calling in any minute now. I was going to talk about before Skid Row. At the end of the year, I said, you know what? By the end of 2024, Eric will be out of the band, and it didn't even take that long. I think it was 3 months in. Granted, it was an amicable split, they say, but they say that with a lot of people and a lot of bands. He does have health issues, and being on the road all the time probably wasn't in his best interest. I guess he should have known that when he joined the band, that he should have worried about his health first before joining Skid Row. But now all the talk is Sebastian Bach going to come back into the band? Is it going to be about Bach? Is he coming back? You never know. I don't see Skid Row bringing Sebastian back in, all of a sudden headline in Madison Square Garden tomorrow. That's not going to happen. They might be able to play a little bigger places, maybe like the Starland Ballroom instead of the casinos and county fairs that they have been playing. Who knows what's going to happen? But there is such a hatred between those guys, at least Rachel and Sebastian. It might happen, it might not. I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see, right? Who knows? I hope it doesn't, because I'd hate to give Sebastian a little bit of, pleasure. This guy really is such a jerk off, in my opinion. I hate to see him happy about making this happen, because then he'll say like it was all because of him, and they'll wind up fighting anyway, give it within a few months of being out on the road, and it'll all fall apart again, I'm pretty sure. All right. I don't know if anybody's heard the latest clip from Attacker off the new record, The God Particle. Absolutely amazing. These guys are on fire, and I can't wait to talk to Mike in the second half of the show. Mike, the first guest we ever had live on here. I mention to him every time he calls in, but I won't say it this time. And tonight, Carl Canedy and Mike Sabatini, both guests calling in for the 8th time. So that's pretty good when you think about a show being on there for 16 years. Every other year, we kind of had them on if you break it down that way. But Carl should be calling in any minute. We're just waiting right now. I just heard from his PR person. He said he'll be calling in. So we'll give him another couple of minutes to go on about that. And I was going to mention a few things about Carl's book, but I figure we'll wait for him before we start talking about it. But if you haven't got it, go pick it up. You can't get an autographed copy yet, but I guarantee you, if you sent it to Carl and paid for the shipping, he would probably sign it and mail it back to you. He's just that kind of guy. He's big on the fans, so I'm pretty sure he might actually be selling on his website before you know it. Buy from there and get it autographed. All right, here we go. Let's get Carl connected and do this interview. It always takes a little bit longer for the call to come in on the computer than it does on the phone. So just give me a second here and we'll make this happen. All right. There we go. Carl, this is Mike. You're on the air. How are you?
I'm good, Mike. How are you?
I'm doing great. It's a pleasure to have you on here again. We haven't spoken since the 450s.
Yeah, it's been a while.
I know, and hey, listen, it's been a great year for you. New Raj record, a book detailing your whole life outside of music and inside of music, and a grandbaby. Congratulations! Life don't get better than this, huh?
Thank you. No, it's amazing. It all came together. The Colossus album, after 46 years or something, we have a brand new album, all original material. The new Raj album is, the biggest album we've had since the first album.
It's true.
My granddaughter is amazing, and and my book, which took me 2 years to write.
It's a
I thought it
fascinating
would be
book.
2 months.
not with your history. I mean, come on, 45 years of the Rods alone, when you think about it, then 50-something years just in music. How can you put a timeline on that?
Yeah, well, it was tough, I have to say. We actually were close to 500 pages.
Wow.
We had to, our editors, my publisher said, you got to cut it down. The book will be too expensive. And so we did, but that was another hard thing. That took 6 months right there just to edit out 200 pages. So when I'm going to be doing the audiobook, I'm going to, I'm going to actually embellish it. I'll add things where I feel, it's appropriate.
I get that. Going through the book, it took me about 2 days because I couldn't put it down. I mean, I read it on the plane going to Memphis this week, going and coming, and I mean, I could have went through those
Seriously.
I could have
Wow.
went through those 500 pages like they were nothing. Your story is amazing, and I hate that actually I got cut out of the book because then I'd kind of be disappointed that I didn't get to read about that.
You know, it's just there was a lot of commentary. There were stories, but some of it was, my personal life, and it was. I thought it was pertinent for me, but I think there's enough of my personal life in there to let people know. But what was up? But it also was, we had to cut things out. So we did the best we could without damaging the story.
I think it's a pretty good flow to the book, to be honest with you. It touches on, I think, all the highlights and some of the lowlights. I mean, not everything is, a high point on a roller coaster ride. There's a lot of lowlights in there too, and you didn't embellish anything. I think you were pretty straightforward with everything you put down in that book and how you felt about people, and you didn't degrade anybody, you didn't put anybody down, but you were just honest and truthful about it. It wasn't like it's like a smear campaign. The book, it was just about you. And when you talk about your musical life, I mean, even some things that are like at the low points of that part of your career, it could be hard to talk about. But then putting your personal life into it, was it easy to talk about, like, your family and you as a child? Because I have to tell you, when I took out the book, I read the first chapter, my heart broke when you wrote about being driven to Pennsylvania and being left with a family at 5 years old. I mean, thinking of my kids and my
Yeah,
grandkids. I mean, I actually started to cry.
yeah.
I was like, because I look at my
I
grandchildren
was
and my kids. I was like heartbroken.
Yeah, it was tough. I was 4.5 because you could start school in Pennsylvania at 4.5. And then I'm left-handed, so they sent me to school. They just go, here you go. And they were nice people. They weren't mean to me, but they had no investment in me. They didn't talk to me. I was left on my own. But then I went down the street to school, and then, when we get there, they realize that I'm left-handed. And wasn't kosher back then. So they're like, you got to switch to right. So I was messed up from, from early on. But hey, it's the way you get through it. But yes, that was tough. I had moments where I was pretty choked up recounting things. It was definitely an emotional roller coaster, without a doubt. But
And
one thing I will say, and I'm so grateful you said that. Go ahead. I want to
no,
interrupt
I'm
you.
sorry. I want you to finish, Carl. Go ahead. You're on a roll.
I really appreciate you saying it because you definitely got the book, and I really, really appreciate that because I wanted the book to be honest, and I wanted it to. I wrote the book for my daughter because my daughter would always say to me, "All of your stories when you were young, when you were a kid, they're all so sad." And I thought, "Oh, that's terrible for her to go through life thinking my dad, like everything's a sad story when he was a kid." And a lot of it was pretty sad, but little by little, I was able to change things, and I wanted her to know that whole story and to be able to pass it on. And so I did it with my recordings, and that's when Doc Bill Harrington approached me and he said, "I'll transcribe your recordings." So I said, "Great," and that was fantastic. And then we had to go back through. There were things when transcription software and whatnot. There were things where the one thing I always joke about is it came back with copious tears. And I went, what the hell is copious? I've never said copious tears in my life. And so we had to go back and I had to look at everything and go, that's not what I said, And so that was painful because I had to recount it. And honestly, like I'm not looking forward to. I started reading, like doing my audiobook, and I just was going through just how am I doing with reading and putting it, on the mic and all that. And I was like, oh, this is going to be tough to get past that first section.
It really is tough. I mean, the whole beginning of the book kind of recounts your childhood, and people say like, oh, you don't remember much when you're 3 years old, 4 years old, 5 years old, but you really do. And I guess we tend to remember more of the bad stuff than the good stuff.
Mm-hmm. The traumatic events.
Yeah,
Those are easy to remember when you're a kid. Traumatic event.
yeah,
And
it's
I had a
definitely not
couple.
easy. You had quite a bit. You mentioned. I mean, moving to California. I mean, then getting the news that you would come back home, being excited to find out your father passed away, and how your father spoke to you as a human and as an adult compared to other adults in your life. There's a lot going on in those first two chapters that really sum up like the man you would become later on in life and how you handled things as a parent yourself and as a father.
Yes, and that was people would always say you're such a great father, and I'm like, you know what? I'm running interference so my daughter doesn't go through what I did. And it wasn't about being a great father. It was about I'm going to protect my daughter as best I can, and that means being there for her. And like we would go to, she hadn't been to Discovery Zone, and before a birthday party, we would go to Discovery Zone first and give her a chance to acclimate, so that when she got there, all the kids who have been or been going regularly, she wasn't like, what's going on here? Because that's how it was for me. I would show up at school events or things would happen, and I would have nobody having given me any input or help or exposed me to anything, because my mother worked and she was poor. And so I thought, you know what, we can't let Erin have that kind of life. And and I'm glad. I know it worked out.
And I'm
We had a
happy
great
that it did.
relationship, and yeah, no, so it was good. It was a catalyst for me to actually break the cycle.
Yeah, I don't want to talk too much about the book. I want to talk about the book, but I don't, because I want people to buy it and I want people to read it themselves and hear everything. But it's
Thank
hard
you.
not to go over it all. But I mean, moving away from the family aspect of the book, when you first started getting into music and then into drumming, and we've spoken about this in past interviews and things like that, but you kind of lay it more out in detail in the book. And you came up through a music business where, I mean, it could have been, it was a business. You got into it because you wanted to be part of the business, to make it a career, to make a living, to do it that way. And you talk about like how when, you joined bands, like, you weren't the leader of the band. This guy was the leader and this person was the leader. And you kind of had to bow down to them. And they, one guy would rip you guys apart if you had an off night. And that's a tough thing to do. I mean, but as a young guy joining a band who's like, named after another person, I don't want to mention those bands. I want people to read the book. I mean, how does that feel? How does that come about? Does that turn you off to the music?
No, that's a funny thing. Like that, I don't. I used to be like, we would go see bands, and I would see a drummer, and there were a couple of great drummers, that in our area. Denny Hall was one of them, and with the Cassells, and the Cassells were like the premier group, and they sounded like the record, And Denny Hall, who was very kind and showed me a lot of things, was really helpful to me, whereas other drummers were kind of like, get away from me, kid, arrogant. But Denny was the premier drummer, and he was very kind to me, and that was a huge impression. I've always tried to be helpful, and over the years, people have come back and said, "Remember, you helped us with this arrangement, and you helped my band." And like, I don't remember it, but I'm glad that they have a good memory of that. But it never discouraged me. I would go with my friends, and they would say, other drummers, and they would say, "I'm going to quit. I'll never play like that. I'm going to quit." And I would say, "Well, I'm going home, and I'm going to practice on my pillow because it's late at night, but I'm going to practice, and I'm going to be as good as I can possibly be. I'm going to be a great drummer." And that was my attitude. It didn't matter that somebody blew me away. I didn't even understand what they played. It inspired me, and it still does to this day. I'm constantly trying to learn new things and execute them and strain them through my experiences and hopefully my style, but never discouraged ever, not one time.
Do you have to look at the big picture? Do you have to say, well, this is, the beginning for me. This is how I'm getting started. Or, a lot of people join a band for the first time, especially an established act, and they think this is it. I'm going to be here forever. I'm going to make my fortune. I'm going to be well known. It doesn't always work out like that. It rarely ever works out like that. So do you just say, these are learning lessons, and I'm going to take this to the level that I want to get to? Because when you're doing this and you're playing in these bands, this is before the world of heavy metal. There was no heavy metal back then. We had Black Sabbath and, and some bands, but they were considered rock bands back then, not heavy metal. You kind of came into the scene before it started, and you even saying in the book, like, this was all new to us. Like, did we come late to the game?
hmm We had no idea when Sounds Magazine reviewed our album, and we got a 5-star review or something, and they said we were the American Motorhead. Like, we ran out to buy Motorhead album. Who's Motorhead?
Yeah.
And then we saw the cover. Like, oh man, those guys are cool. Look at that. They look bad. They were scary. Like, people used to say we were scary. We were like nothing compared to Motorhead. Motorhead was the real deal. But we didn't know anything about Motorhead. We were just doing what we did, writing songs the way we wanted to write them. So.
And that you did. And one person you talk about a lot in the book, up until he passed away, was Al Faso, and what the impact he had on you. You almost consider him like a second father. And when you think about all the bands that you work with, and they start telling the little snippets in the book, when they talk about in your book, there's a chapter you write about a lot of the bands you work with. Then some of the members of those bands come in and they tell their version of meeting you in the story. And almost every one of them mentioned Al Faso and rehearsing in his place, and he seemed to be a big part of that scene and your life.
Al was Yeah, Al was for me was like a second father to me, and we were close, and he was the best. And Al, when we were going to England for Iron Maiden, I needed a grand, $1,200 worth of gear, which in 1981 that was a hell of a lot of money,
Yeah.
and but I didn't have it. So he let me take whatever I needed, cymbals, sticks, heads, um, for the tour, and he never, I didn't sign anything. Unfortunately, I paid him off as soon as I got back. But the point was that he was so trusting, and he supported musicians so much, and he believed in me, and he was just the best. I can't say anything but just love the guy, and yeah, it was a sad day because talking, Al was in the hospital, and he said it broke my heart, and I thought, well, you know what? One day that's going to be me in one form or another. But he said, Carl, I'll never play my drums again. And I was like heartbroken, thinking of poor Al, because he loved music. He was a great harmonica player, and as well. But he was a drummer, he was a singer, he was an entertainer, and but he was a great figure to me. But Al loved all the bands, and when the bands, he just loved hosting the bands and helping them. And I know I would bring bands there to do pre-production, and they would come back on their own, or like Dan Beeler talks about. I hooked him up so they could come and work on the second album there with Al, and that was wonderful. He was always there for all the musicians.
I think every band needs somebody like that in their life. Every musician, I think every human being needs somebody like it's more like a mentor, somebody that just knows what it's like to be in the business of the party scene and can do anything he can to help out without looking for nothing in return. That's the rare thing and the hard thing to find.
It's rare. And Al got burned a lot. He was trusting and he got burned, but it didn't stop him. He didn't let that deter him from supporting bands. So I always respected him for that, even though I know he got burned. But people took advantage of the kindness, musicians. So, but there are a lot of stories about musicians who talk about Al let me take my first guitar, and I didn't have any money, and Al said, "Go ahead and take it, and pay me in installments," and we did, and like I wouldn't be playing guitar if it weren't for Al. And so there are a lot of stories like that about with Al.
That's a beautiful thing, and I wish I could go by chapter through this book, but we're going to just have to keep, jumping around because we only have so much time on the show. But you talked about meeting Rock, and I had Rock on here in January, and he's such a self-deprecating guy. He doesn't think he's a great guitar player. He doesn't think he's a great this. He's no show. He's just an amazing human being, and your relationship with him goes back 50 years. And you talk about hooking up with Rock and Joey DeMaio, and the three of you were together. And was that the beginning of what would become the Rods, or was that the beginning of what might have become Manowar?
It was actually both, because David and Joey had Thunder, and that story I tell. Link from Colacas, the bass player, and I went to see Thunder at some theater in Auburn, and they had a biggest mismatch of equipment, like all kinds of amplifiers. And I've worn earplugs since the mid '70s, and so I put my earplugs in. I took them out, and I said, their hum coming off the stage from those amplifiers is louder than we play as a band. And when they started playing, my friend Dave Galutz was playing drums, and he was a hard hitter. And you would see the cymbals move, and you would see him slamming the drums, but you didn't hear a thing. All you heard was the guitar and bass. Joey and Rock were so loud that you couldn't even hear the drums. And we were in front. We were literally in front, so it was unbelievable how loud they were. And if I hadn't had earplugs in, I would have been deaf because they were so loud. But when Joey and David and I got together, we started working on a couple songs that were excellent, really great songs. And I want to circle back to about David in a second. But that was the beginning, and then Joey started Manowar and invited me to come along. There was no name at that time. He was working on the name. I remember when he called me and said they had come up with the name Manowar, and it's like a fantastic name. And David and I started the Rods, and we started gigging and playing, and so it was that period of time when it evolved. But I think I mentioned it in the book. But David's always known as, oh, David Rock Feinstein, cousin of Ronnie James Dio.
Yeah.
And yes, he is. And yes, they were close. They were family, but they were also brothers. Ronnie loved David, like a brother. But like I say in my book, David is a great guitarist, a great songwriter. I love his vocals. He's not a singer like Ronnie, but he's a singer in his own right. And but I say, he really has made a name for himself on his own, with his own merits, not with anything to do with Ronnie James Dio. Not that you can take that away because they're blood, but the point is that if you subtract Ronnie out of David's equation, David stands on his own and made a name for himself on his own.
Absolutely, 100%. I mean, he's such a gentle man with everything. And going through the book, I was like, there's got to be some juicy fights in here between the two. And there really wasn't, except for that one issue with the rights being given away and them going over to play without you at Vakken.
Mm-hmm.
And that was like, and I'm like, wow, for all those years together, I mean, if that was the worst of it, and it probably was bad at the time, but I mean, that's not the worst thing in the world. But I mean, how did you feel about that when it took place? You kind of go into it a little bit in the book. I mean, could you picture someone else being behind the drum set at a Rod show?
Well, I knew that the only way they could play Vakken was what I was told was if the Rods played set. The way for Feinstein to go would be if the Rods did a set. And so I said I would go. I wouldn't just pay my expenses. I don't want any money. I'll go. And then I said to Gary, Gary said, well, I'm going to go because it's a free trip. And I thought, what a dick. Like, why would you do that? Like, you have no respect for the Rods name. And I was really pissed about that. And, to this day, like now that Gary's gone, I'm so happy that he's gone because Gary was never invested in the band. He never wrote a song. He never came in with a lick. He had one song that Life on the Edge. And the only reason that song exists is because I put it together with him and forced him to do it. But he never brought, he promised to bring it. Even on Brotherhood, I'm going to bring it. I'm going to bring some lit. He never did. And, but he was never invested in the band. And that was a real thorn in my side, and I wanted Gary to leave the band for a long time, and David was like, no, and they were great on stage. That's the other piece of the puzzle is that on stage they were fantastic. Like I used to say, it was the dog and pony show, and I had the ringside seat. Just watching those two, it was a riot, and it was fun. And Gary was a fun guy, but Gary was not invested in the Rods. He's not a heavy metal guy. He just, he felt he should be the lead singer in the band, and he was not the identity. And it was, there were just some issues there for me. But, it was really a case of when that happened, I was pissed at Gary for not saying, no, we have to have respect for the Rods as a band, and it has to be a unit. And the three of us are the Rods. We've toured. We've done so many gigs. That's the band. And I'm not going. And he didn't care. He didn't care whether it was good, bad, or indifferent. And David, was kind of, it was basically, he can be swayed sometimes, he's like, go along, get along. He's a mild guy, like you said. He's not looking for conflict. He doesn't like conflict. But even with that episode where it came down to lawyers talking and the fact that I could have my Rods and he could have his Rods, I stood my ground, and it was unpleasant for me, as you read in the book. But we never had strong words. Like it was never, it was just like, no, I'm not doing it. And it's like, well, why not? It's no big deal. They don't mean anything. Give them, I'm like, fuck no, I'm not. Sorry, I don't know if I can say that or not, but
Yeah, sure you can.
I'm like, fuck no, I'm not giving up my rights. And that was the other thing that irked me. And eventually David has now acknowledged, but after the Arista albums, I said, we retain all of our publishing and we license only. We're not signing away any albums. All of our recordings are only licensed, and they revert to us after X period of time. And same with our publishing. And of course, recently we were able to, with High Roller, we were able to re-release the albums, and we got a very good paycheck for it. And David was like, okay, now I get what you've been protecting all these years. So, but we never came to blows, and never came to screaming match or any of that. Neither of us are like that. We're fairly level-headed and reasonable. So, and what can I say? He's been my partner, and I told him before, said, you're actually not just my bandmate all these years, and he defers to me on a lot of things, and we're a true partnership. If I have strong opinion, he'll listen, and we will work it out. Um, but I said, you're also, you're my hero. You're one of my idols. I think, I'm a big fan.
There's definitely a connection there. And, talking about Gary, I can imagine what it's like going through that. But do you think Gary felt that way? Because he knew that you and Rock were kind of the leaders of the band, and all the decisions that were going to be made were going to be made by you guys. And that's just the way it was going to be. Or did you just feel like maybe you always wanted to keep Steven in the band, not even have Gary in there?
I think Gary must have felt that it was the two of us because we wrote the material. We were the identity of the band. We were the direction of the band. And sometimes the direction, we were off target. We were off base. And Gary was still had to suffer with that. So when he had a dissenting opinion, it was kind of discarded or not appreciated and not acknowledged. So I'm sure there was a huge frustration on his part. But of course, he could have stepped up differently. But I still, you're absolutely right. That was probably the case for him, and so I don't blame him. I really don't. But with Freddie in the band, and I have to talk about Freddie because he's the better half of the Thunder Twins, as I call us. Freddie came in, and he and I work out parts. We work out grooves. He's got a killer bass sound, and you can hear it on the new album. There's so much energy because of it, and so much like melodic bass parts, and you can hear the groove, the power that we have together. When I go on stage and count off a song, I know that he and I are going to kick ass on that, and the tempos are solid, and the parts are great, and just there's so much. I have so much confidence, and I enjoy it so much now. With Gary, and this isn't all Gary because I was a madman too, so I'm not dissing Gary, but Gary on stage, I used to joke about it. It was like we would, like instead of going, okay, here we go, we're going to start the set, 1, 2, 3, 4. It's more like on your mark, get set, go. Meet you at the end. Whoever's there first, Like it was a steeplechase, and so that was a different thing. Gary played his thing, I played my thing. We weren't working as a unit, and Gary never wanted to work out parts. Where Freddie and I work out parts, so it's a different day. And we would have engineers from the Brian New, from Chris Collier, mixing Brotherhood of Metal, as well as Vengeance with Brian New. Like there's the bass tone. There's no bass guitar. And Gary never wanted bass. His thing was to dial out the lows and dial up the mids. So with Freddie, he's the exact opposite, which is the sound I love, the Geezer Butler kind of sound, heavy with a bright top. That's what I love. And so I'm thrilled. And, as much as I say things that sound negative about Gary, they're just my honest opinion. I'm sure he can say lots of things about me and be exactly right about it. So, that's the other side of it. I certainly acknowledge that. And he was offered to participate in the book, but he chose not to. And we offered a million times. And when he left the band, we didn't want him to leave. David had waited a year and a half. And then finally, Gary was kind enough to write us a letter and said, I don't think I have anything more to offer. And he was honest about it, which we really appreciated. And it was, it was what we needed because then David was able to move on. And he was, holding on till the very last bit. He was concerned about moving forward without Gary because what would the fans think? And as it turns out, it's not an issue in any way, which was good for us. We carried on. It's been David and I have been there, the direction of the band, the songwriting team from the beginning. So in essence, we lost Gary on the stage side of things, which, but again, at our age, running around the stage like you're 20 years old is really not conducive to strong playing. And secondly, at our age, you could be looking at the paddles coming at you when you drop.
Yeah, that's true. And things do change. But, you're talking about Freddie. I mean, Freddie's just an amazing player. I mean, he was in American Mafia with Tom Innamorato, who you guys knew from back, and then with Abigail. I mean, there seems to be that whole connection over there of people from the area. And I think two of the albums, out of all the Raj records, the two that always throw people off the most is definitely the Hollywood record and Heavier Than Thou, because people didn't know if it was the Raj, who it was. And Hollywood really wasn't a Raj record, but somewhere over the course of time, it became one, on paper.
I
But those two
I
records
brought it
threw people
I
off.
brought it back in.
Yeah,
I brought it back in as a Rod's album. When we reissued it, I'm like, okay, this is a Rod's album. But at the time, I didn't want to release it as a Rod's album because I felt it would be unfair to the fans. So, that's why we did it, the Hollywood Project. And it was something that we should have maybe not put our names on and, done a Rod's album instead. And Heavier Than Thou was, I had been working on having, doing, like, I knew things were coming to an end with the band, and we were going to be on hiatus. There was no way around it. So I would record as many tracks as possible, and that's what I made the guys do. Do as many click tracks as you can, and because we had the songs. So that's how Heavier Than Thou came about. We did a few more new ones, but it was like even Angels on the Run. That was a song David didn't even remember. I had it because I'm the archivist of the band. So I had cassettes of us, playing that song. David goes, "What?" He didn't have any recollection of that song until I pulled it out, and then we, I think it was Angels on the Run or Angels Never Run, whatever. We changed something in the title, but we were, that was how that album came about. And then Shmulik and I were working with Andrew Duck McDonald and Tom Inamorato. So that's how that album came about. It was kind of a patchwork album that I was able to kind of assemble for us. It's a great album. And David heard Shmulik sing, and he said, "You know what, Shmulik should sing the whole album because he's so good."
yeah, he really is. Was anything from that record, or was that around the same time as the band Paris? Because I don't think you guys recorded it. I mean, didn't put anything out. I don't know if you actually recorded anything, or was that all around that same time period?
We didn't. It was exactly that time period. I have some cassettes that I've transferred to digital, and I don't know. Maybe it'll see the light of day from the Paris project. But yeah. So that's I have that, and I'm working on that. So I have a few things in the pipeline. Live at the Marquee for the Rods at some point.
I'm just happy we have a new Rod's record. Rattle the Cage. I'm happy we have that.
Well, there are 10 songs down with click tracks, vocals, guitars, and I've got at least 5 drum tracks done. So we're really moving on with this next album.
That's fantastic.
And this album has one of the best songs I think David has ever written. In fact, I played it for a few friends when they hear me, my drum track, and they listen, blown away. And his vocals the best ever. So I think we have at least another album in this after this one.
I hope so. I mean, he is the voice of the Rods. I know last time we spoke, Freddie had, Gary was out, Freddie was in. He also brought Michael in from your band. He was going to be the new singer. Mm-hmm. And then I was glad that, I heard that when Rattle the Cage was coming out, Rock was going to go back to vocals because he really is the voice of the band. He's the sound of the band. And I'm laughing in my head because you just mentioned click track twice. I'm thinking of your chapter in the book. I can't remember the name of the producer. Maybe he was from Arista, another major label you were doing a demo with. And he wanted you to play the click track, and you had no idea like what that was, and you felt like you were like horrible. You said in the book because you couldn't do it.
Yeah, no, I mean here I am, having played arenas with Ozzy, Def Leppard, Judas Priest, Foghat, and suddenly I'm going tit tit bam, tit tit bam, tit tit bam, tit tit bam. I can't play that with the click track strapped on. It was embarrassing, and the only thing I can say, I'm in this huge room, and everybody else is downstairs, so I don't see anybody. There's a camera between my tom-toms right in my face. So I'm playing, and they stop. He'll stop the machine. And you hear this little slide of the tape, and there would be, right then, we'll drop in. So we start again, tit, 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 and I'm trying to match it up to the click track. I have no idea what the hell I'm doing. Tit, tit, bat, tit, 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 bat. And he isn't giving me any input. Like, just groove along with it. Try to keep it as a pulse. Like I try to teach drummers. Like, the click is a pulse. It's not, you're not supposed to match it perfectly. You need to learn to play behind it, on it, and ahead of it, and use it as your friend. And play it with its music. It's not just whatever, a static kind of thing where you're matching it up. So it's do that. But that's what I was doing. I was trying to play it like a machine. I was trying to play it better than the drum machine, and there was no way in hell. So then he would stop. And now there's cameras in my face. It's cold in the room. There's nobody around. And every time he stops it, long, awkward pauses. Now, I know that they're talking shit about me down there. And I have to sit there with the camera in my face, knowing that they're talking shit about me. I'm like, you bastards. But it was embarrassing. It was humiliating. But now, I just did a drum track, Mike, the other day for the Rods album. And I'm listening back to it with the click track. And I am so on the click track that there are spots where it's phasing with the click. My snare drum is phasing with the click track.
Wow.
So I'm dead on the freaking click track now. But it's not, nothing I'm trying. It's just a pulse. I think of it as a pulse, the tempo, and it gets in my head. And then when there's a break, it just keeps me guided to come in at the right time. But, that's another case of going back to what you said about being discouraged. Like other drummers would go, yeah, I can't do it. Some drummers cannot play with a click track, and they refuse to learn. But I knew that there was no way to not play with a click track. If I didn't learn to play with a click track, that I would be a true dinosaur as a drummer. There's no way you're going to work. So I learned.
How long did it take you to learn? How long did it take you after? I mean, did you make a conscious effort after I said, I have to figure this out, I got to get into the groove with this? Or was it just something that, as you went on and on, it came to you more naturally?
No, believe me, I ran to the store and bought a drum machine.
Wow.
And then I started practicing it, and it came to me pretty quickly, I want to say. But the things that even 5-6 years ago, you're playing with a click track, and you have to learn how to. And it took me, even after I learned to play with the click track, you start a fill, and the first thing you want to do is add a little energy. And so you kind of push that fill a little bit. So you speed up a little bit to get some power. And then suddenly I found now you got to pull it back. And if you're going to be on the click track when you're out of that fill. And so you have to learn to adjust. And, so it's been a process, but now it's not a process. Now I pretty much play on the click track. I don't think about it. And I'm grateful to have that freedom now. But that was such a humiliating experience that somebody else would go, I'll never play with a click track again. I'm going to smash anybody who brings it. I'm going to smash the drum machine if they bring it in, or try to strap something on me. But I didn't. I went home and bought a machine and tried to get better at it.
That's what a professional does. And I love when you get to the chapters in your book where you talk about, meeting Johnny Z and getting involved with Megaforce and then becoming like basically the house producer in a way. I mean, you worked with TT Quick and Anthrax in the very beginning, Overkill on their first record, Exciter. I mean, too many bands to name. I know you can't probably remember every one of them. You probably actually do, but there's just so many going on in there. And then you saw like, these kids are coming in here and, when you worked with like Anthrax for the first time, you have a bunch of kids, and you talk about Possessed, going out to California, that you had to record it on Easter break because they were in high school, and you went out sightseeing during the day because you had to wait for them to get it, have their break and come back after school. These were young kids that, at the time, and like I said, we talked about earlier, you came through the business when it was a business and you had to kind of adapt. These were kids that was just either high school friends that got together to write music, and I don't think they really knew anything about the music business or the industry itself. They were just kids that wanted to play, maybe get a record out there and have a good time. How do you corral all these young kids into like, putting this, you say like Possessed, like so like Possessed, I should use the word, about recording. They went in there and they were dead on with everything, where other bands you kind of had to corral them together.
Yeah, no, Possessed, they were a unique band. And when you see Jeff now, he's still out there. He got a killer band. They were focused. They were hardcore, and they rehearsed hard, and they wrote cool material. And so, it was no problem to work with them. And Debbie Abono was such a great lady, their manager, and I stayed at their house and when we did pre-production, and she was the best. Debbie was just a great, great lady, and she went on to manage a lot of bands, quite a few heavy metal bands, and they all loved her.
Yeah, she was good.
But it was easy, sometimes bands. she did. And some bands were just partiers. Like Rat Skates is a great guy, and I love Rat, and he played really, he's a really good drummer. But the first day in the studio, when you're playing fast double bass, your muscles have to be in shape. You can't. So he went out and partied and stayed up, and now now his muscles were starting to cramp up, and he just wasn't able to execute it. So I had to have a talk with him, and he came back the next day, completely clean, and everything was good, and went forward from there.
Yeah. You talk about how with Overkill, Bobby Gustavus always felt like he was on the outside looking in with a lot of stuff. And years later, he was out of the band. There's been a lot of friction between them for the last 2 or 3 decades. When you recall a lot of these stories about the bands you work with, do you take yourself back in time or to what you remember from then, or there's stuff that happened years later with the band kind of come into your memory play and it kind of all melts together? Are these like exactly what you saw at the time it had? Because you didn't know who a lot of these bands were at the time. You were working with them. You talk about Anthrax with with Neil Turbin, who I think was a great singer. I love the story. One thing I didn't know is that you took him out as a backup on the Jack Star concert. I had no idea about that. That was the first time I ever heard about that. And he was out, and you figure like a band, like they lose their singer, which is very hard to do because the singers are the identity of a lot of bands. They lose them. You think they would regroup and look for somebody else that has a right fit, but this all kind of took place in the studio with you, where Matt Fallon came in, then you recommended Joey, and I mean, did they kind of just like sit there and say, we're going to listen to Carl and go with this guy, or do they sit back and like let's see how it works out? Because sometimes you jump in too quick and things kind of fall apart.
I was, what I said was these guys are not going to get you to a major label, and that's what we were trying to do at that time. And the story was exactly unfolded as they said, well, okay, call Johnny. I called Johnny and told him, so okay, put the guys on the phone. They went into the conference room, and within 3 minutes they were back. And they go, Johnny wants to talk to you. So I go back, I pick up the phone. I go, hey, John, what's up? Put him on a bus, and he hung up. That's how it happened.
Yeah.
That quick. Those guys had balls. Like they, that's why I have respect for Anthrax as a band. I've always loved Anthrax as a band, but those guys, they had balls. I mean, they did some things that other bands would be afraid to do, and they weren't.
Do you think being in a band is like being in the mafia? It's business, it's not personal. I mean, Dan Luca, him and Scott were like best friends. They went to school together, grew up together. They had to give him the boot because Neil didn't want him in the band, was the story. And that was, the beginning of it. Then Frank comes in. So do you really have to put personal feelings aside no matter which way they fall to make it for the benefit of the band if you want to succeed?
Well, I've never been that guy. We did that with Steve Starmer. When Cedric Kushner said, you've got to, David doesn't remember this. We were talking about this recently. David doesn't remember this. Cedric told Doug Taylor that David needs to, when we had that horrible show with Judas Priest, our first show opening for Judas Priest, we didn't know anything about stage monitors. David's playing, and he's playing like Power Lover, where the accents are there. This is what I heard, and I had no idea where to come in. And so at some point, I just like, okay, I'm jumping off the cliff, and hopefully I land in water and not on the rocks. And which I did, and I landed on the rocks. But we were able to get through the set somehow. But Cedric said that David should, David should replace the guitarist and drummer, or the bass player and drummer. And so Steven, was a victim of that, and it wasn't fair to him, and we've always felt horrible about it. But the manager, and Cedric's advice, you got to get rid of Steve, and but it was also me. And David was like, well, I'm not going to get rid of Carl, which thank God. But that's how it was. So, yeah, so when it came to Steven, we did that. And Steve played great on the first album. And he's, great guy. And so we still love Steve. I asked to bring him back a few years ago. He came and played with us in Cortland, and hometown gig for him. And he did really well. And it was a lot of fun. So that was hard to do. I still feel terrible about it, even though we've all gotten. It was the best thing that probably happened to him, he's had a wonderful life, and he had a great job, and everything is really good for him. Wonderful retirement, but I still feel bad about it.
It's part of the business. One thing you talk about in the business part of the Rod's history, you talk about Peter quite a bit throughout the book, your manager at the time. And how you tried over many times, like to convince, I guess, Rock to, like, we gotta let him go, we gotta let him go. And I think the one thing that comes out the most when you were talking about, he turned down the opening slot for the AC/DC tour because it was like a $40,000 band, which by today's standards is a fortune for any young band. Never mind, all those years
Mm-hmm.
ago. But it was AC/DC, but you went out with Judas Priest. So did you feel like the Rods would have had a better shot with AC/DC because it was more similar music-wise than maybe the Rods and Judas Priest? What was the big deal that of losing one to go into the other at that time?
Well, Judas Priest tour was delayed because they had a huge stage set up. So that was delayed, and that our album was out. So we weren't on tour, and the album was out.
Got
It
it.
was late after the time, right? So that was tough for us. But we had done so well in England, and we should have gone back to England. We should have been back there as soon as possible, and we weren't. And the AC/DC tour would have brought us back in front of a lot of fans, and it would have solidified us in UK and in Europe. And we never really got anywhere in Europe until later years. And it would have been so. We should have, in my opinion, the only career move for the band at that time was to be in the UK, to go back through the UK and solidify ourselves as a band to be reckoned with. And that didn't happen. So, but I did give Peter carte blanche, everything he wrote, and I put everything in the book. He was able to write his side of things, and he actually made me look at things a little differently, and I did, and I softened my opinion on him on a number of issues because I was young and cocky and arrogant, and just I was the guy who was driven. I think more than anybody in the band, I was the guy who was just so focused on moving the band forward that I had tunnel vision on some things. So it was good that Peter, as he'd say, and I softened my position as well. I still have my opinions, but I don't look at him as doing such a horrible job or some of the things that I was very negative about. So it's good.
Did it also come when you became manager of the band? Maybe you saw a little bit more of like what goes on or what he had to deal with. I mean, you're always gonna have more interest in what you're doing because it's your band than somebody on the outside. But did you pick up anything from that, saying, "I kind of get like what he was doing now"? Or I see where he was going.
I sent him a text, which he never responded to, on Facebook, that Peter, I owe you an apology for a lot of things because now that I'm managing bands, I see what you were going through, what you were up against. So absolutely right. It was. And managing bands. And Young Turk was a total challenge, total freaking challenge. I love them so much. I love the music and still do love the music. And I love the guys. I'm still friends with the guys. But and Rick, the drummer, and I are like brothers. But they were tough. They were tough.
It explains it in there when he says, "I'm going to go now and take a shit." So it kind of shows where they were at that time, with the band. But things are tough. When it's
beautiful, beautiful restaurant, and we have Susan Henderson there from MCA Publishing, and we're like trying to make a good impression and whatever. And then, oh no, thank you, I'm going to go home and take a big shit. I'm like, oh my god, but, okay. I guess the facade is up.
Come on, it is rock and roll. You know what I'm saying? These are the things that go on. But
Yeah,
when you're sitting there, you're scratching your head like, that was not the right time.
Yeah, we could have handled that a little differently.
Yeah, but this
That
is
and
the
the
crazy
fact he had
road.
flan on the plate, and he was shaking it, and then he puts it up to his lips, the plate, and sucks the flan into his mouth. We're talking about a very, very upscale restaurant.
Yeah.
So Rhett, the singer and the leader of the band, Rhett was always like, yes, let's go to El Cid, which was a very upscale restaurant. In fact, I had to put it on my American Express card because they didn't take Diners Club or whatever the A&R person had. And, at the time it was $1,000 or something. So it was, Rhett would always take advantage of the A&R people. Like, yeah, let's go to the best possible restaurant that I've wanted to go to, living in Miami but can't afford to go to. So let's let them take us there.
Yeah.
So sucking flan from the plate was a little less than the decorum we were looking for.
I can imagine. Carl, man, I could talk to you forever, but I got another guest coming on in like 10 minutes. I want to wrap things up. I want to play some music from you. I mean, the book is out now officially. I mean, you can buy it anywhere, Amazon, anywhere on the internet. Are you going to have copies available to sign for people? I was talking about that before you came on.
Yes, I will. In fact, soon I'll announce or put up somewhere that's on the Rod's website or whatever that people can order books autographed from me, so they can order them directly from me. So that'll happen soon. But I'll have books at the shows as well, and I'll sign anybody's book if they bought it. I can't thank them enough, and I'm happy to sign any books that people purchased.
It's a great read, and everybody has to buy this book, Tales of a Wild Dog. I mean, you guys got shows coming up, don't you? Aren't you going to Australia?
We are. We have a local show with Jim Florentine coming up April 20th. So what, 2 weeks from now?
Yeah.
And then we have Sweden July 6th, and then we have then we're going to Australia 25, 26, 27 of October.
Wow.
So, and then also we have, and I haven't announced it yet, and I don't know if I can. Let me see. I'm looking here on my phone. No, I can't announce it yet.
Okay.
I have two more dates in July coming up regionally, so that I'm excited about those as well. So yeah, so we have some dates, and we'll keep it posted. We'll make sure it's on Facebook and on therods.com.
And I'll let everybody know here when you have those dates. Carl, it's always a pleasure to talk to you, my friend. I'm going to play something off of Rattle the Cage, then we're going to go back in your catalog after that. So the best of luck with the band. I mean, I'm waiting for the next record. I hope it's not the last Rods one, because you guys have been on fire lately, and let's just keep this thing going.
I'm with you. Thanks so much, Mike. I appreciate the support.
You got it, Carl. Take care, my friend. Have a great night.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All right, let's get something on off of Rattle the Cage. Hearts of Steel. Rods, Hearts of Steel off the brand new record, Rattle the Cage. I could talk to Carl forever. There's so much in that book I wanted to go over. We have Mike Sabatini calling in a couple of minutes, so I want to play some Attacker before he does. I usually set my interviews directly with Carl, but this time the PR person doing promotion for them, set him up for today. I didn't know it was going to be him. It was supposed to be somebody else originally, so I figured the interview would have been shorter. That's why I had Mike call in at 7:30, because I know Carl could talk and we were going to go on and on. So, great book. Pick it up, Tales of the Wild Dog. He has a chapter pretty much dedicated to almost every band he worked with, at least from the 80s. There's Anthrax, T.T. Quick, Exciter, Blue Chair, The Thrasher Project, many more. And then he intertwines that with stories of himself and his childhood and his adulthood, how he met his wife, his daughter. It's a great read, and it goes by really quick, believe me. I read it on the plane going to Memphis, most of it. I read the rest of it coming home yesterday. So that's how good it is. All right, how about we get some Attacker on right now? Let's go back to the second record. Let's do Lords of Thunder, and then Mike should be calling in right after this.
Nothing you do can beat the best. Ever people of the land. Nothing we do can ever find them. They can press us with a hand. They turn in your hand. Make you look at the dead in their eyes. Nothing you see is reality. You can feel it in your soul. No one you trust will ever be you. We keep that head to toe. Nothing you hear will be total true when you're in a darkened hole. The Lords of Thunder come up from under the ground. Under the ground. Nothing you say will make them listen. They're the only ones who heard. Nothing you dream will be make believe. It can fool you when it's word. Nothing you breathe will have mercy. Ever held out to the war. Nothing you hope will ever happen. They're the key that's locked the door. The Lords of Thunder. The thunder that destroyed the world. Destroyed the world.
Man, Attacker really are the Lords of Thunder. John Leone, he passed away, I think, in 94, 95. What a great singer. When you hear him singing, he sort of captures a little bit of what Bob Mitchell did on the first record and what Bobby Lucas would do decades later as a new singer in the band. He was kind of a combination of both, even though Bobby wasn't around back then in the band. But it's a great mix. And Mike will be calling in any minute now. And the God Particle comes out this weekend, April 12th on Cruz del Sur Records. What an amazing record. You guys are going to love it when it comes out. They've been on fire with the records. It's a shame that it's been so many years since the last one. COVID kind of put a lot of bands on hold. Mike's been busy with things, and a lot else has been going on in Attack, and we'll talk to Mike all about that in a few minutes when he calls in. But let me see who we have on the show next week in case I forget to do it, because we're going to wind up running really late tonight. And I got to get Krishna's request on. He wants to hear Damien. We'll do that after the interview. Next week, Pat Mainzar of Hammerhead. What a classic band they were back in the day. We're going to have Pat on next week. I think Mike is calling him right now, so let me connect him. Mike, it's Mike. You're on the air, buddy. How are you?
I'm good, man. How you doing? I didn't mean to cut you off there if you were speaking.
Nah, nobody listens to me anyway. It's like talking to my wife doing this show.
well,
No,
well, that's
nobody
not good,
cares. No, not at all. It could
Nobody
be good, I
cares.
guess. But listen, it's great to have you back on here again. The last time was
Yeah, man.
Armor of the Gods. That was about 6 years ago. So I'm
Yeah,
happy to have
well,
you. And it's funny because this time in April, 12 years ago, we were talking, I think, when Bobby joined the band. I'm
Yeah,
not 12
you're
years
right.
ago, in 2012. I'm sorry.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah,
Time
that
goes
was
by
that was
quick.
that was yeah. He joined in 2012, so that's probably about when we talked, I guess. So
Yeah. Well, it's been a
Some-
long
some-
time.
yeah, no, absolutely, it's been, man. But I'm happy to be back. And by the way, I heard you mention before that you weren't going to bring up that I was your first guest ever, but I'll bring it up. So
I have
there.
to. I remember
I heard you before you. I'm not. You said I'm not going to mention it, but
because I always mention it. I said this time I'm going to let it go because I think he knows by
Yeah.
now. Hey, you know
yeah,
what?
but hey, it's a milestone. So hey, you know what? To be your
It
first
is.
guest ever, it's pretty cool. So
Listen, 16 years later, I've had 2,122 interviews. 8 of them have been yours
Wow.
starting tonight. So that's pretty damn good.
no, it's like I said, very cool thing, and I'm happy to be back on again talking to you.
I'm glad, Mike. And you know what? It's all for good stuff because the God Particle, holy crap, the 2 songs that you guys released so far are just mind-blowing. And, I mean, you guys have been firing on 1,000. I mean, to me, since day one, but with these last 3 or 4 records, I mean, it's just been phenomenal. They're getting better and better and better. And that says a lot when the one before that was so good.
Well, yeah, I mean, you know what? Listen, we write the songs. We hope everybody digs them. That's all we do. But so far, we've been pretty lucky, and everybody likes it. So, that's like I said, that's all we can do. You never know how good something is until people either like it or don't like it. So,
That's true. Well, listen, like I said before, 6 years since Armor of the Gods EP came out, 8 since Sins of the World, the last full-length record. A lot's gone on in that
Yep.
time. I mean, you've been busy. You got Band Mother happening, and you're looking like you're always doing
Yeah.
something, busy with that. And there was a short
Yeah,
amount
yeah,
of time where Bobby was out of the band, Ski came in and did
Yep.
Spiritual Warfare. So a lot. So
Yep.
let's pick up from, I guess, Armor of the Gods, 2018. What happened after
Right.
that?
let me see. We still were doing shows. We were doing some shows into. I think in 2019 we kind of did a bunch of stuff. We went down to like Washington D.C., up to New York State, Pennsylvania. We did a bunch of shows all around, and then we that's kind of when we started having a little friction in the band between Bobby and ourselves, and I guess it was towards the end of 2019, beginning or sometime in beginning of 2020, where we kind of parted ways for a bit, and then Ski wound up coming in. He was gonna sing with us, but then wound up just not working out. So he did the one song, and it was interesting. Bobby and I started talking, and we kind of both agreed that he's the guy. He should be the guy in the band because we work well together, and truthfully, he can sing all the eras of the band. He can do the Mitchell stuff, he can do the John Leone stuff, and obviously his own stuff. So that's an important thing. But the bottom line was, we were building a history again anyway, by doing the Giants of Canaan, Sins of the World, Armor of the Gods. So it's hard to keep bands together,
True.
but it's always better to keep a consistent lineup. It's not good when you're constantly changing, and it's hard to do. But, ironically, this current lineup is the longest running lineup we ever had without making a change.
I was just going to say that. I mean, you might go back a long ways. I mean, even with other stuff, not just Attacker, but and it shows in the music. And I just think it's the singers, man. Singers are a real pain in the asses to get along with. I don't know what the hell it is.
I'm sure they would agree with you too. Yeah,
I'm pretty sure.
I think when singers are born, they have a different, there's certain connections in their brain that are different than the regular musician. So,
And you managed to find each and every one.
well, hey, now you know what? Trust me, it's more than singers because I've had my share of different musicians too, but yeah, it's just what it is. Again, singers are a different breed. Being the front man, I think, is a different thing mentally than being
True.
the musician. So listen, you've seen a million bigger bands where the singer quits, they get a new singer, singer goes out on his own, and neither one of them get as big as they were, and then they wind up getting back together again. Because truthfully, it's the sum of the parts. It's not the individuals. It's the sum of the parts that make the band great and how they interact. That's what I believe.
I couldn't agree more. But it also shows you the maturity of the band as you move along. You realize, hey, you know what? It works with Bobby. We're going to talk this out. We're going to get through. We're going to put it back together. We're going to make it work this time around. So in a way, that's really good because, you tried that with Bob. It didn't work out the second time around. John wasn't around for another go around. And before you called it, I was just saying, when John Leone was with the band, he kind of captured what Bob could do vocally on that first record. And who would have known that 20, 30 years later, Bobby actually has a little bit of John in him, where John kind of, was like the go-between between the two of them.
Exactly. Yeah, no, absolutely. And the funny thing is, too, is if John Leone had still been alive, when we reformed, we probably would have called him first because he was the last singer in the band. So, we probably would have did that, as opposed to, but, with Mitchell, we kind of had made up for a while, but, it didn't last. But, yeah, John Leone, we would have actually, reached out to try to find him to come back into the fold at that time, if it would have been, something that could have been done.
I think these are just sounding great with Bobby. To me, it's a whole new band. It's a whole different band. I mean, every Attacker record kind of stands on its own as a whole different thing. I mean, I don't know if you feel that way as being in the band. Yeah,
I'll tell you why. Because one of the reasons why is almost, the first album was mostly written by Jim Mooney, musically, a little help from the rest of us. Then you get to the Second Coming. That was all written by Lou Charlo, except for one riff that Pat Marinelli had written in one song. Lou wrote lyrics and music. Then when you get to the third record, it's a combination of all of us, and Mike Benetata is starting to write. So really, when you have different writers, you're going to have different, it's going to be musically slightly different, but I, if anything, the one constant thread through the whole band has been me being the only original guy, and it's been my drumming on every album, and also having the same, the style of vocalists, the guys that had the high ranges. So that's been more the constant, but the music has definitely changed a bit, from what it was on Battle and Second Coming to now. But the good thing is a lot of people say that, like when they hear stuff, they still say, oh, that's definitely Attacker. Like we didn't change to the point where people don't recognize it, and when we do the songs live, the old stuff and the new stuff, everything just works together well, which is great. So we have no issues with that it just seems like things don't gel. Everything gels. So we're happy with that and, blessed to have it.
And that's a hard thing to do, too, that each record stands on its own with different singers for some of them, but yet there's that continuity from the first record to the latest one that people, like it says, they do know it's Attacker. And Mike has been a major writer in the band since, like he was saying, since the Soul Taker record, and he's taken on more and more of the songwriting. And it kind of like defines the sound of the band now because you know where Mike is. Plus, he's one of the most handsomest men in the world. If I tell you, if I was gay, he'd be mine. I snatched that guy right up.
He's the guy that everybody loves. So, he's the rock star on stage, with his blonde hair flipping and stuff. So
I look at him and I'm like, damn, his wife is so lucky.
Oh, I don't know if he's listening, but that's pretty funny. Hey, I want to give a quick shout out.
Go right ahead
to your guest last week. Our buddy, my good friend and paisano Tony from Liege Lord is listening. So I want to give a shout out to him.
Tony's a good guy. We try to keep it Italian on here as much as we can, Technically, Canedy was on tonight. He was Italian also. He just has, not an Italian name.
Yeah, well, there you go. Yeah, I mean, hey, why not keep it all Italian? But yeah, I want to say hello to Tony, and, we're looking forward to doing the Keep It True show, coming up, actually in a few weeks we'll all be there.
That's
and
right.
It's great that they're doing, Keep It True's doing a tribute to Matt Vinci. They're Liege Lord's headlining the last night, and they're doing a whole thing for him. So that's a really cool thing because Matt was a great guy. He's sorely missed, great bass player. Like I said, really sweetheart of a guy. So I'm happy that we're going to be part of that whole thing, being there to celebrate his life as well.
That's going to be great. And the most important thing is the other two nights haven't sold out yet, but your night did.
Yeah, well, all night it's the warm up show, so it's a smaller venue, but it's still, it's still cool. It actually sold out as of last, I think it was last June.
Wow.
So I take that as a little feather in our cap that maybe us being on it helped it sell out quicker.
Oh
So,
yeah, of course it did.
but it's definitely, you know what, it's gonna be an amazing time. We got a nice long show to do, a lot of songs, so it's gonna be a great time, and we're looking forward to it. We haven't been back to Keep It True in a long time, so it's gonna be a good homecoming for us, because that was actually the first festival we ever did in Europe, was
That's
the
right.
Keep It True festival. So that is like our kind of our home base, in a sense, for getting over there.
It's a great way to kick off the year as far as the concerts go and the shows go. And speaking
Sure.
of Paisans, one of our friends from California, Sammy D. Giovanni, Sammy D. from Ruthless, told me to say hello.
Oh
to
yeah,
you.
okay.
He said, "Say hi to Mike when you talk to him tonight." I said, "All
I
right, I'll
will,
let him
Sammy.
know."
I don't know if you're listening, Sammy, but how you doing, man? Congratulations on their new record coming out. Great record. So very cool to see everybody doing well.
Isn't it amazing how everybody from back in the day is doing just as well now as probably even better than they were back then?
Well, you know what? We might be because back then we didn't have the internet. Now you've got so many more opportunities for people to hear you and even correspond with people. I mean, listen, I remember back in the day, people would write fan mail to you, and you literally would have to, you'd have to write them back, and take a couple of weeks to get back and forth. So now it's just like boom, you can blast stuff all over.
It's much more convenient, much more easier. But do you think it takes away from the business isn't what it used to be. Bands are doing everything on their own right now. They're putting music out
Sure,
on their own.
yeah.
They're recording on their own. It's just the way we live it. Things change. When 8-tracks came out, they thought they was going to end the vinyl. Then 8-tracks disappeared. Then cassettes, and
Right.
everything changes. It's everything evolves. But how do you feel
Yeah.
about music today? I mean, do you like the way it's delivered today? I mean, more people do digital today than anything else.
I mean, you know what? In a sense, people talk a lot about vinyl quality and digital. The truth is that digital, you can have a wider bandwidth, you can have a greater bottom end, and there's more, you can do more with it, because with vinyl, you have the groove. So if you had too much bottom end on a record, it would cut into the grooves, a record would skip. So I think dynamically, digital might be better, but analog itself, when we recorded on analog tape, that had a sound, and like I said, if you've worked with it before, like newer people who only worked in digital will never really understand it, but I can hear it when I hear drums done analog, when I hear guitars. There's something about pushing. When you push the signal into analog, you get this harmonic distortion. That it's not bad distortion. It's actually like a sweet distortion that imparts a character to the music.
Got it.
So even though digital itself probably you've got more of a bandwidth and you've got more frequencies that you can push in it, I still think that analog is a magical thing. Digital when it first came out was really sterile, and it took quite a few years for them to get it. To get it up to where it could compete with analog sound as far as the quality and just the sound of it. Which you can do it now. And here's the funny thing: digital came out and everybody got rid of analog. Now digital, everybody makes products trying to emulate analog.
Yeah.
So you're still trying to go back to that sound, but do it digitally, because digital is more convenient. Using those big tape machines, you have to know how to calibrate them, clean them, keep them running. So there is an easier element to the digital thing.
It's true. I mean, even the way people listen to music today. I mean, I buy every vinyl record that comes out. It's not a vinyl. I buy the CD, even though I get them from the record labels, for free for promotion for the show. I still buy my
Right.
copies because I love listening. I love putting my record player on and listen to it. Unfortunately, by the time I get through 10 seconds of the song, I'm getting yelled at to lower the radio. So if I put my headphones on, I'm going digital after that. I'm listening to everything on my
Exactly.
phone.
Right.
But
But again, it's the nature of life. I mean, things change. Technology has changed every business in the world practically. So. You got to roll. I guess you got to roll with the punches.
Well, look, talk about Band Mother. You started this up, how many years ago now? About 7-8 years ago?
I started it in 2018 because I was working for Verizon. I retired from Verizon,
Yep.
and I decided, you know what? I always loved recording. I had different studios over the years that I would start, then stop. So I said, you know what? I'm going to do it. I mean, again, I do it. It's not for a living. It's more for fun. I don't do a ton of bands. Things, it comes and goes, gets busy, slows down, whatever. But I love doing it. and it's so far so good. I mean, I think I do a good job with the albums, as far as the quality, and I did a lot of research, and I learned a lot as I was going through it, to really learn what you need to do over the years. So over the years I learned all of that, and again it's a great thing. I've done obviously the Attacker album. I've done a couple other albums. I've done my buddy Steve Bello, who I played on his albums and also recorded them. Plus our bass player Brian played bass on the last one. I did 2 for him. I did an album for a band called the Donner Party, they're basically like, they're kind of like a cross between like SOD, DRI, MOD. They got some punk in them too. So really cool stuff. I've done some other stuff as well. Like an alternative band I did an album for. So a little bit of everything. And I've also done stuff where I just did drums for somebody, and then they were going to go and do the guitars on their own at home or something. So yeah, it's been cool though. You know what? It keeps me doing music. If I'm not rehearsing with the band, I'm still involved in music. So I enjoy doing that.
That's an important thing. I remember you were telling me about you were getting ready to do that. We were at the St. Vitus bar the last time. You were telling me you're just ready to retire. You're going to start that. I was kind of jealous because I still had to keep working. I retired last year, so you got like 6 years on me in retirement. I finally joined you in that club.
It happens. You know what it is? I made it right. I was at the right time and the right age that I was able to do it. So I figured, you know what? Why not?
Hey, Verizon was a better company than Con Edison was. That's all I could say.
Yeah, but I mean, listen, they all got the job itself was great. It was always dealing with management. I'm
Absolutely.
sure you felt the same way.
Yep.
You liked the job, but it was dealing with the people, because every time they would change managers, people come in and they think they're going to change the world and they're going to make this, and it's like, and you got to sit them down and go, listen, you ain't changing nothing. You don't know my job. You can't do my job. So let us do it. We'll do it correctly. We'll make you look good with the numbers, and everybody will be happy. So.
That's exactly the way it goes. Being a shop steward where I was in my old apartment, they walked me out the door gladly on my last day. See you later. But you know what? Send me that $7,000 check the 10th of every month. I'm happy. I don't care. I don't give a shit about nothing after that.
Exactly. Right. I mean, that's the whole thing. We worked it, and then we had the end game, and we got the end game. So.
But fortunately,
now we can enjoy it.
It's not the end game for Attacker, which is a great thing. And let's talk about the new record, The God Particle. What a brilliant title. I mean, does it mean something to the band personally? It was just such a great title. So, hey, let's use this.
Well, the song The God Particle, Bobby wrote it about. He wrote it about that in Switzerland. They have that thing. It's called the Hadron Collider. That's the thing where they split the atoms, and they found something that they said was like the God Particle, a spark of life. And Bobby researches a lot of stuff, the things that go on. And apparently there is some video of when that thing got turned on initially, they had some kind of ceremony outside, and it was supposedly like world, I don't know if it was world leaders, but people high up in governments. And it was kind of a satanic thing. They had somebody came out in like some like one of those like kind of like goat type head masks with horns. And Bobby had said that they were trying to use that thing to hopefully open up a portal and bring in like evil into the world. So that's why the cover reflects that with the demon on it, coming out of that thing. Because here's the thing, me personally, I don't really I've never been a fan of the whole satanic thing in metal, because I get it, it's a gimmick, but here's the reality. If all the people that are like, dude, Satan, if something demonic showed up right in front of their face, they'd crap their pants. So,
that's right.
So really, the cover reflects something, but it's not something like we're not, I think we all looked at it and we're like, yeah, hope people don't think we're like praising, evil and stuff. We're not. It's a story about what these people were trying to do, and things you hear about. So, again, what is it 100% true? Who knows? But I saw the video and I saw that, that kind of weird ceremony they did. So you never know. I mean, with all the crap you see now, like when you watch the Super Bowl and all these things, and every performer is doing something with red light or something that is kind of satanic. So it makes you think, what's going on in the world right now, like why are they pushing all of that stuff? So, but yeah, but that song, that's what the song's about. And the title and the album cover, it all kind of tied in to make some good imagery for for the record.
Oh hell yeah, that album cover is gonna make a great T-shirt. I can't wait for that to come out.
You don't know how many people have been telling me that. They're like,
Oh my God,
I
it's
need
such a
this
great
size,
cover.
I need that size. Yeah, like I definitely want one of those. So yeah, no, it is. It's a good piece of artwork. It was done by this artist Mark Sasso, who he's actually done a lot of stuff for a lot of the Dio reissues. Since Dio's been passed, and also he does a lot of all the artworks for the band Cage from California.
Yeah,
So
Cage.
so we wound up getting him to do it. And he did a great job. Everybody seems to like it.
It's a
But I
beautiful
mean,
cover.
really, like I said, the whole album itself has a little bit of a darker tone to it. Like the song "World in Flames" about the world basically at war, and curse of creation, and it just has overall a little bit of a darker tone. But the times we're living in, it kind of makes sense, that Bobby was, I guess, writing things that were not, a little different than what he did in the past, because we're living in screwed up times right now, with all the stuff, all the wars going on and the crap going on in this country. So, it makes sense that it's not a happy-go-lucky album.
No, I mean, if you listen to if you go by the titles of the songs on this record, you would almost think it was a concept record. That's how well every song kind of flows in through each other, even though it's not in any way, shape, or form. But everything sort of connects to one another, title-wise at least. Maybe not lyric-wise, but title-wise.
Yeah, I guess there probably is a little bit of a thread, because again, he was probably in a certain mindset as he's writing all this stuff. So it probably does, it does have that little bit of intertwinement, but definitely not a concept album, but it like you said, it does have a kind of a theme.
True, and this is the first record with Cruz de la Soul Music. You won Metal on Metal for I think the last 3 records. How'd you hook up with Cruz?
Actually, it was actually our friend Ali from Keep It True actually had put us in contact with them. What it was? I mean, I love Metal on Metal, like Vita and her husband Simona, great people, but we just felt it was time for a change. Cruz del Sur is it's a bigger label. They have a better distribution network. And, we just figured, hey, you know what? It's like anything. If you stay in the same place your whole life, you're kind of shooting yourself in the foot. You always have to change. You always have to, do something new and branch out, which is what we did. Same thing with the covers. We going with a different artist because Jovita from Metal on Metal had done the other covers. We just felt like it was time for a change. That's all. We always loved working with them and the covers she did. But we just felt like, it's time for us to, we're going to go with a new label. Let's do something, completely different all around. So that's what we wound up doing.
And you did. And at least you're still with an Italian label still.
Yeah, right, exactly. We're still, it keeps staying in Italy. I don't know why.
That's true. Mike, going back to the single from 21, the Spiritual Warfare with Ski on there.
Right.
Was there any chance that you were going to re-record this with Bobby on vocals, or is it just
not really? Because you know what it was? We kind of figured that song, Ski wrote, Ski's lyrics. Ski's a born again Christian, so that was. I mean, in all honesty, that song "Spiritual Warfare" is kind of what's going on right now in the world. With the whole, with the Christianity's is under attack and all this stuff. So it really, it kind of makes sense, the song, but we kind of figured that's Ski's thing. Let's leave it as it is. Leave it as a single it was. Because again, we wouldn't want to we wouldn't want to take the song and then rewrite the lyrics now. It's to just leave it as it is. Let that be like a special thing that we did with Ski, and that's pretty much it. That's what we left it as.
And you know what? I agree. This should be that way. You're not looking to recreate history, redo it.
No,
Ski's got some kind of party band going on right now, like a disco party band or something. I can't remember what the hell it was.
You know what? He does a couple of things like that. And you know what? He's still playing. He's still having fun. So that's what it's all about. So
that is all that matters.
It's a good thing. Yeah, to make sure everybody's out there doing their thing.
Well, Mike, we'll Keep It True coming up in a few weeks. I know you got the record release party coming up. I believe it's June 12th?
No, 22nd.
20. I was close. Only about 10 days off. I would have been there early, but what the hell?
Yeah. Are you coming?
I think I'm going to be there, yeah. It's on a Saturday night. I think I can make that one.
No. You're going to be there.
Okay,
I'm going to be there. You're not going to maybe be there. You're going to be there because it's been a long time. It's going to be a great show because you got us, also Blood Feast, who
Yeah.
is putting out they're putting out their new album. I think their album's coming out in May. So it's actually a dual record release party. Plus you have the Donner Party on the show and my buddy's band Legion, who I'm actually going to be starting to do their record probably in May.
Oh,
So
nice.
they got a new album coming out. So it's going to be a great, cool show, good friends, definitely, it's been a while since we've been at Dingbats, and the record release shows always go really well. So we're psyched to do that. We also have one other show that we're doing, which is actually going to be June 1st. That's actually, it's actually a show in celebration of our friend Joe Moore, who he was the Blood Feast drummer for a while, up until I guess, I forget what year it was, maybe 2019, something like that. And he unfortunately had passed away from cancer, and they're doing a little benefit show for him. It's gonna be, I think it's a VFW hall in Avenel, New Jersey, which is kind of by Carteret, right off the turnpike. And that's not going to be like a full headline show. We're just going to do like a regular, maybe like a 40-minute set. There's going to be a couple different bands playing, because really the show's about Joe. It's not about us. So I told the guys too, I said, don't put us on last. Let us play in the middle. We'll get up and do all like 40-minute set. Cause again, it's about Joe, not about us. So that other than keep it true, that show and then the record release show, that's all we have at the moment. We'll probably, pick up some other things here and there, but for now, we're just going to do those shows, have a good time, enjoy them, and, see what else pops up opportunity wise.
Is it hard to line up shows these days? I mean, so many clubs have closed since COVID. I mean, Dingbats are still there. St. Vitus got shut down. I don't know if they reopened a couple of months ago because of some billing violation.
Yes, I saw the whole thing about that. Yeah, well, you know what? Right, there's less clubs, and also being an original band, you can't play a lot in a certain area. I always say to people, think about if Iron Maiden was here every 3 months. People would stop going. You're not going to go every time and spend a couple of $100 on tickets. And you got to make it more of an event. So if we're doing shows, we'd have to say, hey, well, maybe we'll go down. Like I said, you got to travel to some other states in the area, where people aren't going to go, or if you get opportunities, to play places you got to fly to, and you work out all the details with that. That's what you got to do. But around here, if you're a cover band, sure, you could constantly play because you're playing popular music that was already big. But for us, we have to make the shows an event. So we haven't played, we haven't played in Jersey in a couple of years. We haven't done a Dingbat show in quite a few years. So this will be now, we make this more of an event, being the record release show, and with Blood Feast, doing theirs as well. So that makes the most sense. But, we try to do as much as we can, but also you got to remember, with jobs and, and family things that people have, there's only so much we can do. We can't go on a tour, and plus the fact is, to be honest with you, if you're going on a tour and you're playing Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, you're probably not playing to a lot of people, because it's just the nature. I see a lot of bands still doing that, and they're playing to like 25 people. To me, that's more of a disappointment. So I would rather do a handful of good shows, because again, we only do this because we love to do it. We're not doing it because we think, we're gonna all of a sudden become Iron Maiden. We love the music, we love playing it. We love playing it for the people that enjoy the band's music. But that's why for us, we do just enough to keep us happy as well. And again, if we get opportunities to go do festivals and more things like that, absolutely we'll do them, because that's the most bang for your buck, because you're playing to bigger crowds, because everybody's at the festivals, and it's just and we also get to see all our peers and all the bands that we know throughout the years, or the bands we met just from playing festivals. So it's a good thing, and obviously all the people that we met and became friends with from all the trips we've done. That's amazing too. We get to see them time and time again.
True. But, it seems to be getting harder and harder for bands to get on the festivals. I mean, when did you get booked for Keep It True? Probably a year ago.
That was more than a year ago. Probably like a year and a half. So.
Yeah, and like bands are saying, like we put out a new record, we want to promote it, and we can't get on the festival because they've been booked for over a year, making it more difficult for us to get on. So it's hard even to do that.
Yeah, that's why we're not on anything else this year, because we weren't sure exactly when we're going to get the record out. A lot of times they want you to have something new out, to promote, depending on the band. So really, that's why we have Keep It True, because we did it early last year and got booked, for it. And so you're right about that. It's everything is like cyclical. You got to go through the cycle of it, and you got to you got to jump on the bus at the right time. Otherwise you miss the bus. And, that's just the nature of the business. And the whole COVID shutdown, that backed up a lot of festivals. Whatever shows they were going to do, they tried to keep the lineup that was supposed to play when it got shut down. So now all that kept getting pushed out. So for the first year or two after COVID, they were using the same lineups they already had. So you had no opportunity to get on. You had to wait until all that kind of ran its course.
Was it just coincidence that the record wound up coming out around the same time that you're doing Keep It True, or did the year and a half ago just say we were going to have it ready probably around this time?
It was more the fact that kind of how it worked out, because we were working on the songs last year, and we said, okay, we're going to record in the fall. We should have all the songs written, record them in the fall, get it done by the end of the year, get it to the label. This way they can get everything pressed and up, and it made sense to do that and get it ready for Keep It True, as opposed to either having it out later, which wouldn't make sense. So now we have something that'll be out a few weeks before Keep It True, and we got something to support there. So, but yeah, it was more just the timing worked out. It wasn't a conscious effort. We just got the songs done at the right time, just in time to get it done for now.
Well, that's good. Mike, more often than not, I mean, do bands have to have the product ready to be delivered to a label, or does a label kind of sign the band just based on who they are and say, we want you to deliver us a product?
I think it depends on the band. Like for us with Cruz del Sur, he already knew what we were about, so he had no idea what music we were going to write. You know what I mean? He basically was basing on the fact that we have a history, we've done well, people like the band, so that's how we got signed. If it's a newer band, I would say that either they have a record that they did and they shop it, or maybe they sent a demo out, and obviously you have to hear the music first to be able to do that. I mean, I'll be honest, the guy and Enrico from Cruz del Sur, when I sent him the record, he actually said it's a little different than what he was expecting, because this album is a little bit heavier, and like I said, it might be a little bit darker. It's a little different than the other Attacker albums, but in the same token, you don't want to write the same album every time. You gotta. People change whether we like it or not. You can't. Your writing changes. That's why most bands, in all honesty, their best stuff is early on, when they wrote their first stuff that really had their influences in it. And then once you're doing, when you take bands like Maiden and Priest and you're putting out album after album, it's really hard to match what you did early on. And people wind up shitting on people about that. Oh, this was not as good as what they used to do. And my thing is, I'll tell anybody who's a critic of that stuff, you put out 15 albums like those bands did, and you tell me that every one is going to be as good as the old ones they first did that made them big. It's kind of virtually impossible.
It is impossible. You're right. I don't remember who I was talking to years ago, and they were like, when a band starts out, you're young, you're writing all this music, you got 10, 20, 30 songs you put together before maybe something can happen with a record deal. Then you get that record deal, you put your record out. Then as the records go on, you don't have that reserve of songs anymore. You're writing in the studio, and you're under a gun. They're like, here's your money, I want the record. And now we're in the studio writing songs where, we had all that time to build up, and I think that's part of it too, because when you're under the gun writing, you can't be your best sometimes, and it's impossible.
Right. Yeah. No. I mean that's the whole thing. I mean, it's just human. It's the nature of humans. We change. When people who started out in 1980, are not going to write the same as they did, as they do now. It's just also, you get different influences. As
Sure.
you hear music over the years, we're all influenced. People always ask, that question: who's your influences? I said, honestly, everybody. I said, everything I hear, probably there's a little piece of it that sticks in you. And same thing with drummers. I'm influenced by a lot of drummers. It's not. I never really had a favorite drummer. I liked a lot of the old school metal drummers or classic rock drummers. So, I would borrow little bits and pieces here and there from everybody. I think everybody does that. You know what I mean? Even if it's subconscious, that's what forms your own style.
Very true. I mean, listen, Attacker started out in 1983 as Warlock. A year later
Yeah.
it was Attacker. You guys were in the scene from the very beginning. At that point in time, Metallica had a record out. I think maybe the second record was coming out. Slayer put the
Yeah.
record out. You guys have a song on the Metal Massacre. I think it was Metal Massacre 5 on 884 on Metal Blade. You wound up signing
Yeah.
with them for the Battle of Helm's Deep record. Now,
Right.
at that time, Metal Blade started to already be established as like a well-known underground label. We had Megaforce here in New Jersey on our side. They had Metal Blade out there. Those were the two main underground labels, and those are the labels that people like myself went to for all their records because we weren't buying, major studio records. Yeah, we bought our Priest and our Maiden, but we were looking for the new bands coming out of the underground. It was Metal Blade putting them out, and there was Megaforce. And somewhere in between, Combat came out and other record labels, but those were the two. You guys signed with Metal Blade after that appearance on Metal Massacre. How did that work out
Correct,
for you
yes.
at that time? I mean, did you get what you wanted out of that label, or was it just still so new and young as a label that they weren't able to really support the band the way they should have?
Well, not here's the thing. We put the record out, and I think it was about 6 months later. Brian Slager was telling us, get ready to do another record. We hadn't even written anything yet because we literally did the first songs we ever wrote. That was Battle at Helm's Deep, and we were kind of still reveling in the fact. So we weren't ready. And then what happened was, in all honesty, when you're a young band, you're very cocky, and you think that we thought that they're not doing enough for us and this and that. So we wound up not signing, staying with Metal Blade, which in all honesty, I've told this in many interviews, was a big mistake. We should have been more level-headed. We should have hunkered down, tried to get another record written and do it, because ultimately it took 3 years to get the next record out. The Second Coming, we didn't put that out till '88, and we signed with that Mercenary Records in New York, and that label wound up going out of business shortly afterwards. Supposedly the owner, I think something happened with tax evasion, and he fled the country because he was a French guy. Now here's something really funny.
Fucking French.
We had the Second Coming up on all the digital platforms. And a couple of months ago, I got a letter from the company DistroKid that was distributing the Second Coming for us digitally. They got a letter from I think the children of that guy started. They basically somehow reconstituted the company, and they contacted them saying that we were in copyright infringement. Because what happens is that label actually, technically per the contract, which I dug out, they own the rights to that recording in perpetuity, meaning they own it forever. And so basically right now, the Second Coming is no longer it's on digital format, but not through us. So, we wouldn't make any money off of it. So I had no choice but to let it go. So the only option we would have, and we kind of laughed about it, but I don't think we'll ever do it, is the only way we could do it is if we recorded the whole album, with the current lineup.
Yeah.
But I'm not a fan of that anyway, just because, I feel like every album is a moment in time, and you got to leave it alone. Once you try to redo it, it's not going to be the same. So, John Leone was the singer on that album. Let him be the singer on that album. Even though we don't have control of those recordings, it's fine. It's been sold enough. Enough people have it. And there's probably still copies of the stuff that was put out afterwards. But I found it ironic that these people all of a sudden show up 30-something years later, 35 years later. Oh, we're starting the company up again. So I was going to write them a letter and tell them to shove the recordings up their ass. I'll say, because number one, here's another thing. Alex Perialis, the producer, he never got paid by the label for those recordings. I didn't know that until we did that Armor of the Gods EP.
Yeah.
I always wondered why, when I looked up his discography, I never saw our name on it. He never got paid.
He wasn't putting it on there.
Yeah, no, right. He never got paid. Yeah. So really, I should tell the company, hey, where's my royalties for the records that you sold? I never saw a royalty. Alex Perialis never got paid. Why don't you make all that right before you start taking stuff back?
It's true. The business part of the music business is crazy, and so many bands have done what you just said. I'm glad you didn't do that because, like Exodus, they went and re-recorded the first record with Rob Dukes because they wanted to get the rights to it back, and other bands have
Right.
done that, and it doesn't sound the same. It doesn't have the same vibe. But here's the thing:
Nah.
if you went and re-recorded the Second Coming with this lineup, and
Right.
now you have the rights to those songs back, do you get the money for the original recording still, or just for the newer versions of it?
Well, technically, we're supposed to get money from the original because the label contractually was supposed to pay us royalties. We never got a dime. They went out of business too soon. So really, we don't know what they sold. We have no idea, but we never saw a penny from it. So that's why it's laughable that they come out of the woodwork and go, "Oh, that's copyright infringement." But here's the thing. We're not going to try to get lawyers and go after a company. It doesn't make sense. The album's been out long enough. People have it. You could still find it's still up on YouTube. To watch. To hear the music or whatever. So it is what it is. But it was just ironic. But that goes to show that we probably should have put something in the contract that they only have the rights for X amount of years because the Metal Blade contract. Those recordings only stayed with Metal Blade for 5 years, and then we got the rights come back to it for us. That's how we were able to re-release that as well. Metal Blade didn't own the rights to the recordings only for 5 years.
That
so by
wasn't bad.
1990, yeah, but so that was okay. But the Second Coming, they owned the rights in perpetuity, which was like again, we were young, we didn't pay attention to shit, and this is what happens. So.
It's the name of the business, but you know what? You learn your lesson because you didn't do that with Dying Glory and the rest of the labels after that. Make sure you kept your
No,
stuff.
you know what's funny? I'm sitting here at my computer desk, and all of a sudden I smell garlic.
That's probably me. Is it coming through the microphone?
I don't know. It could be. And I'm looking around. I'm like, I don't have nothing in the kitchen. Somebody in one of these other apartments next to me must be cooking, and it's like wafting through the walls.
And come on, it is Sunday. It's sauce day,
This is true. This is true.
That's what happens. But Mike, like you were saying, with Metal Blade, they kept it for 5 years. The Second Coming was forever. They kept they kept it. You couldn't get it back now.
Now,
But,
yeah, right.
Yeah, but as this happens and it goes on, you learn your lessons obviously from record to record. But being that there was, it was only a 3 or 4 year gap between Battle of Helm's Deep and the Second Coming. But back then, I don't think anybody thought that the scene was going to change, things were going to be different. But 88, 89, things started to change drastically. Then a year or two later, it was history for most of the bands.
Well, you know what it is too is when the Second Coming came out, thrash was all the rage. Like you said, our first album came out when Metallica was already putting out Ride the Lightning, basically. So, it's kind of like we were like a day late and a dollar short. We came out being the more traditional metal, like the Maidens and Priests, and everything now was already thrash. So we kind of missed the boat on that. You know what I mean? And then by the time we got...
But I thought Second Coming has some pretty heavy songs on it, much faster than anything on Battle at Helms.
Oh yeah, no, it definitely was, but it still wasn't a thrash album because thrash bands had the you had a member singing for the most part, who, and again, most of those guys weren't really singers; they just sang out of necessity, and we were coming from the school of the Rob Halfords and Bruce Dickinsons and stuff like that, so that in a sense, a lot of people who like thrash. At that time, only wanted thrash type of singing. They didn't want the old school high singing. So, so even though it was a heavier album and if anything, it's a speed metal album. That's what it is. It's still kind of old school, but fast. That's really what it was.
True.
But again, it was just the whole scene was changing, and that's why we had let the band go at that time. After the label went under, and and everything was pretty much thrash was the rage. We were like, all right, you know what? It might be time to do something different. And that's when we had myself and Lou started the Jersey Dogs.
You and Lou were in there. Mike joined that band a little later on.
Yeah,
the
Mike.
three you were in
Yep,
there,
yeah, Mike. Exactly right. Mike joined, and we were, and again, that wasn't even full. It wasn't super thrashy, but it was more in line with the heavier bands. Lou was singing. And Lou had more of like a Lemmy kind of voice. Matter of fact, some of our friends used to call him Lemmy Lou. So
I was glad when Heaven and Hell put that out a few years back. Because a lot of people that didn't get it back in the day had a chance to get a copy of it again.
Yep, exactly. And you know what's funny too is the Heaven and Hell. The first show they did, they played Radio City. We all went to that, and we used to joke around, and we used to say like "Ay Dios mío, Ronnie James Dio," and they were filming outside the place. Lou ran up to the camera and he said that. He said, "Ay Dios mío, Ronnie James Dio." He's actually on the special features in the DVD.
I gotta go look for that now.
Because actually, a couple of friends of ours from the band Elixir in England, they actually wrote us and they were like, "Hey, is that Lou on the DVD?" I said, "Yep, that's Lou." Yep, he happened to make the cut. He didn't get wind up on the cutting room floor. So
That was good. Who was the girl on the cover of the Thresh Ranch record?
That was actually like a stock. It was like a stock photo.
Oh, okay, I thought it was somebody's girlfriend back in the time.
Nah, the label fucking pushed the shit out. Like they didn't. They said no, we want to have this cover. And somehow they twisted our arm and we did it. And I do remember that our other guitar player, John Ilaw, he went to some kind of car show or something like that, and he wound up meeting her. She was actually I don't know how he even knew who she was. But he met her. That was just like a photo that somebody took, and because it was like a cowboy type of thing, and we were Thrash Ranch,
Yeah.
That's why they used it, But because again, we weren't, we weren't a glam band, so we normally wouldn't have been putting a chick on the cover.
No, I always said that it was a gorgeous cover to look at because the girl was hot as hell. But I was like, it just doesn't fit. It didn't fit. But
no,
did you ever think about
exactly,
revisiting the Jersey Dogs, maybe for like a one-off or something?
Well, here's the thing. I don't know if you ever saw, but that we re-released that album.
Yeah.
We put the EP and the album, and then we had another cover done, and I'm sure if you saw that, it was a photo of us that was painted as us as like skeleton cowboys, and I think John Ilaw was an Indian. So we put that on as the second cover for that re-release that was out of I think it might have been like 2016 or something like that.
Yeah, 2018 on Heaven and Hell Records.
2018, exactly,
Yeah.
Right. So
No, I got that.
So yeah, we talked about revisiting it, but the reality is Lou was like 50-50 on it. We actually said it would be good to do something where we do a thing where Attacker and Jersey Dogs go to Europe as a package. Because you'll have me and Mike already in Attacker. Lou will jump in with Jersey Dogs, and the other guitar player John, he lives in California, but he had told us that he would do something if it was ever to happen. But again, I don't know. That's all. It's hard enough keeping one band rolling, and trying to do two. I always say that to people. I go, man, you have no idea. Because people say, oh, why don't you? Is that all you do is Attacker? I'm like, I barely want to do that sometimes. You know what I mean? With all the crap I got to deal with.
Well, listen, I mean, you do take on all the responsibility for the band. I mean, you kind of run everything. You're recording, you're playing. It's a lot.
In that respect, yeah. No, I enjoy it though. You know what I mean? I've always kind of been the leader of the band in that respect. The other guys, they'll write the music, they'll contribute. And again, everybody comes up with ideas. But as far as the business end, they usually always refer to me. I've been doing it longest, than anybody else. So I know the ins and outs of stuff. So that's it. I take care of what I got to take care of.
And that's where it should be. I mean, does it get hard where you have to do so much, because you got four of the guys in the band, everybody kind of wants to have a say, because it's their band, they want to be a part of it, but you also have to defer to the one person who's been there since the beginning that knows where the band should be, where the band should go, and what's best for the band. So how much do you take it from other people?
Oh, no. Well, the thing is, I never make decisions on my own. Like anything we do, so if I get somebody offers me something or I have an idea, you got to run it by everybody. You can't, because I never treat it like because I'm the only original member, I'm the boss, because again, everybody chips in equally with things, whether it's rent for, studio, this and that. So I can't just say, well, I'm the boss, if you don't like it, too bad. So really, if I come up with an idea, I'll pass it to them. Somebody may say, hey, that's a good idea, but let's add this to it. Like, so everybody jumps on and, we all try to contribute and make whatever it is the best it can be, whatever idea or whatever. But with the business end of it, generally I'm the one that'll do all the negotiating for money and this and that, that stuff I'll handle. And then I'll let the guys know. So.
Hey, whatever works, right? Mike, I got to cut you loose like 5 minutes because we're about to run out of airtime. We got 10 minutes left. I have to play something off the new record. But I mean, the 12th of this week, April 12th, the official release date.
Yep, next Friday the album will be out, vinyl and CD, so you'll be able to get it. It's basically on all the outlets that sell metal. It'll be everywhere you look online. You can see the pre-orders now. So go out and get it, support the band, and we'll keep doing what we're doing, having some fun and playing music for everybody.
That's all you can do. And I love it that you just put out these 2 songs as teasers. You didn't give the whole record out to everybody before it came out because people are going to be surprised this weekend when they buy it and hear the rest of the songs on there. I got my advanced copy from the label, but, I'll be buying it as soon as it comes out this week, too. And, Mike, I'm going to see you in June in New Jersey. I can't wait. You guys in Bloodfeast is going to be a killer night.
If you're not there, I'm coming to look for you, so you remember that.
I'll be there because you know what it is? That's the closest I can get to staring at Mike's eyes while he's up on stage. So I'm going to be there.
This is true. Yeah, exactly. Listen, he'll probably even autograph your breast if you want.
I'm definitely going to do that. I'm bringing my my Sharpie with me.
That's funny.
All right, Mike. It's always great talking to you, my friend. I will see you in a couple of months. Mike. Take care, buddy. Bye-bye.
Absolutely, brother. Take care.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye. All right, Mike Sabatini of Attack. Let's get something brand new on off the latest record. Here's World in Flames.
World in
guys are on fire, man. Attack, A World in Flames. Don't forget to buy that new record when it comes out this week on the 12th. I want to thank Carl and Mike for being on tonight's show. Next week, we got Pat Mainzer from Hammerhead and George D from the Wizards. Don't forget to tune in. It'll be another great show. I'm going to miss doing this live next year when they force me into pre-recording everything. Maybe I will go back to Block Talk Radio because I can keep doing the live show. I miss talking to bands that way. All right, let's wrap it up here tonight with one more song. Christian wanted to hear Damien, a band out of Westchester, New York. His hometown. Here's Because You Are My Friend. Take care, everybody. Have a great night. Have a great week. And I'll see you next Sunday.